If I had to read this woke cancer today, so do you. Tacticon is hiring an administrative assistant. When we invited her out for an interview, she replied with this email.
My whole channel only exists to help you respond with wisdom and virtue to the ideas of our age. Tacticon Armament here put out this short where he responds to something like 12 different woke talking points all in one email. He did a great job, and I want to go ahead and just simply bolster that and maybe flesh it out a little bit more so you're prepared to respond to talking points very similar to this.
Invited her out for an interview, she replied with this email. Hi, I support a total gun ban and will never be interested in working for a company that supports guns. Well, I support your right to exercise your First Amendment that is protected by the Second Amendment.
Whenever somebody tells you that they support some radical policy like a gun ban, you need to immediately simply respond with a question. Why? Then simply ask, how would you accomplish this policy? And what would you do when people inevitably said no? Would you support the government coming in with their guns to fight those who would not give up their own? And here's where they hit a fork in the road. Either they admit that they simply have not thought this through and didn't realize that this would lead immediately to a full-scale civil war resulting in hundreds of thousands of dead Americans. And we're not talking about bad guys, evil criminals, bank robbers, and gangbangers dead in the streets. We're talking about normal, everyday, average men and women who simply don't want to give up the only tool they have to fight against tyranny. Or they admit that they're totalitarians, that they don't believe you should have the right to use guns to protect your own life and liberty, but they do believe the government should be able to use guns to take that right away from you.
Concealed carry is a danger to those around. Around who? Criminals? Many states have passed legislation allowing concealed carry without any permit. That is the Second Amendment.
The economist John Arlott has shown conclusively, with the greatest data set ever compiled that goes all the way down to the county level, that whenever concealed handgun licenses go up in an area, violent crimes such as rape and murder go down. So yes, concealed handguns are a threat to bad guys and bad guys alone. Now you may wonder, well, what about children getting into them? There is a non-statistically significant increase in accidental gun deaths whenever concealed handgun licenses go up. Whenever you look at accidental gun deaths in America, it's in the order of a couple hundred. Whenever you look at the number of people who are actually protected with guns, the defensive gun uses, it's somewhere between 500,000 and 2 million according to the CDC. So the idea that concealed handguns are inherently dangerous to good guys is just fallacious.
It's abhorrent to support the device that is now the #1 cause of death in school-age children. Yeah, I'm not even going to make a joke out of that. That's absolutely tragic. But what I will say is that your data set is coming from K through 12, and that is often attributed towards gang violence and self-inflicted firearm deaths.
Notice that she said now, and notice that she said school-age children, so that you think that the chance of a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, or a 15-year-old being shot to death has radically increased recently. And that simply isn't true. The chances of an actual kid being shot to death is still and has been steady for the last 20 years, about 4 in every 100,000. It's still not the leading cause of death. But the actual leading cause of death, which is cars, has miraculously been cut in half. The chances of a kid being killed in a car accident used to be about 10 in every 100,000. Now it's slightly under 5. But they'll tell you, well, the chance of a child being shot to death has increased from 4 in every 100,000 to 5 in every 100,000, now surpassing cars. That isn't true. So what actually has changed? They've taken an outlier group of 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and 17-year-olds from certain high crime areas and lump them in with all children throughout America. These areas have not been proactively policed since the Black Lives Matter riots, and because of that, we've seen an increase in about 3,000 extra young black men killed every single year. So instead of talking about the unintended disastrous consequences of these insane liberal policies, rather, they want to make it seem as though it's an actual gun problem. Point of fact, unless you live in certain very specific neighborhoods in America, no matter what your race is, no matter what your age is, your chance of being shot to death is still near zero, especially if you're a kid.
With that, I will end this message with the notion that to be pro-gun is to be pro-child death. I think it's logical to say that if you think I'm pro-child death, you're probably pro-choice, and I don't see much difference there.
Linguistically and scientifically, he is exactly correct. They surveyed over 5,000 professional biologists, and 95% of them agreed that life begins at fertilization, at the moment of conception. This is actually a scathing critique of our scientific establishment. They know exactly when human life begins, but they don't know that all humans have human rights. Linguistically, it's true as well. The word fetus just means offspring. The word child comes from the Old English for a fetus. So whenever you say abortion kills a child, and they say, no, it's not true, abortion kills a fetus, you can point out, yes, those are the same word.
Absolute sincerity, Rowan. They, them, theirs. I can tell they, them, theirs one thing. I completely agree with you. You are not a good fit for Tacticon, but I hear Bud Light is hiring.
That's it for today. My name is Ryan Martin, and this is Unsafe Media. If you're the kind of person who has not joined my Patreon yet, you're probably also the kind of person who thinks that an AR-15 shoots rounds that are significantly more damaging than a hunting round. Go Google that. Then join my Patreon. Then like, share, subscribe, all the other things. And until next time, I'm reminding you to trust in God and keep your powder dry.